Hey, welcome to today's episode of the Sharon Cliff podcast. And I'm so excited to welcome Anjani Amriit on today's show. And hopefully I have pronounced that correctly. Now, we're going to be talking about what empowered women need to know to succeed on their own terms, and also having a healthy bank balance, but a soul that is bankrupt. So I would love you to introduce yourself, Anjani, and let us know who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Thanks for having me on today. I'm very excited to be here. So I call myself a reformed corporate lawyer turned socialpreneur. I had a long, distinguished career in law, in corporate law. It was very male dominated. And I basically was doing life on someone else's terms and really on society's terms. What I thought was what I wanted to do, what I had to do to be a success, to be a good contributing human being. And it lasted for 16 plus years, and I did it a long time, but it really had took its toll on me mentally, physically, and emotionally. And what I realized later was spiritually. And so I, after having a long time, just really unhappy, really lacking purpose, lacking drive, feeling like a fish out of water, I took myself off to India to eat, pray, love myself back to well-being. And it felt more like home to me, the Eastern way of living, Eastern practices. And what I ended up doing was coming back. I left the law and I transitioned slowly into running my own business, setting up my own business. And it was a slow transition. It happened over a number of years. So I worked in my own legal practice to start with. I set up my own legal practice so I could earn money while I was restudying, retraining. And over time, I became a mentor, a speaker, and an author. And that's what I do now. And my business is very much aligned with giving back. It's all about contribution. And in my business, we grow conscious leaders so that they use their positions of power to give back to humanity. We also are a huge women's empowerment advocate. So we amplify women's voices and help women get out there into doing whatever they want to do. And we also mobilize change makers. So anyone with a big vision, know they're here for a bigger purpose. We help them put that into something practical, strategic, and get it, on the ground and running so that they're successful with their purpose and also earning money from it, because it's important that we earn money too.
Yeah, correct. I love your journey, and that your trip sounds amazing. And a lot of people, I guess, do go on that journey of self-discovery and come back a different person and really want to make an impact. And a few things you mentioned there about in your journey, and what I find a lot of women that I talk to and a lot of women that are having my coaching programs, and also myself included, is that women now really are focused on living life on their terms, and putting in boundaries and creating their own rules, and saying no to what sort of the norm was, and and to everyone else's rules, and creating their own. And I was intrigued by by your story and your journey, and I wanted to delve more into you talk about some of the things that you do is empowering women. So what do you actually do, or what tools and tricks have you got for women that want to be empowered enough to live their life, but also to run their business so they can be successful but on their own terms?
Great question. I always say that I don't empower women, because women have the power inside of them. But what I do is help women discover that for themselves. And a big part of that, well, there's three main aspects to that. One is spotlighting their own unconscious bias, particularly around their own gender. And I say unconscious because it is a blind spot. And we don't realize it. We don't realize how biased we are against ourselves when it comes to promoting ourselves. And so we shine a loving spotlight on that, so we can out ourselves where we're putting ourselves down, where we put ourselves at the back of the queue, put out, and encourage women to put themselves first, because traditionally in society, to be a good woman, to be a good wife, to be a good person, we have to put everyone else first and put ourselves last. And so we shine a spotlight on our own unconscious bias. And then second of all, what we do is we look at all of the ways in which we self-sabotage. So women are 57% more likely to self-sabotage than men. And that's because of culturally, and the society that we're raised in has us believing that it's humble to do that, and it's false humility. And so that holds a lot of us back. And self-sabotage, the key ways in which we self-sabotage are being, having that perfectionism. I've got to get it right, especially if we're looking to set up our own business. We never get it going because it's never perfect. Or I want to write my book. Oh, it's not perfect enough. Or I want to start a podcast, but it has to be perfect. And that's how we sabotage ourselves. The other main way is people pleasing. I've got to do everything for everyone else and put myself last. And then I'm too exhausted at the end of the day to be able to do any work, create anything, focus on my business, look at my leadership, have a vision for myself. So even dream about my purpose. There's a lot of lacking, especially for women. There's a lot of, I do the drudgery day to day, but I don't dream for myself. I don't hold a higher vision for myself. That's the second way. And then the third aspect is connecting to our feminine leadership, energy, qualities, power. That is very diminished for us women. I know when I was doing practicing law, it was a very male-dominated environment. And I basically thought that I had to become a bloke to beat them at their own game. And so I wore flat boots, trouser suits. I had short hair. I would swear a lot, and I'd go for beers with the boys. And I, be like, rah, be one of the boys. And I totally lost who I was in all of that. No one told me to. I'm not blaming anyone. I did it myself. And that was my unconscious bias. But once I started realizing that it's my feminine qualities, and I'm not talking about gender here, but these feminine leadership qualities, a conscience, a moral compass to do what's good in the world. Most women, that's their purpose. That's what gets them out of bed every day. That's what switches them on. That's what lights them up. It's making a contribution. The other one is collaboration, coming together. We are better together.
Absolutely.
So much better together. And then connection, forming deeper bonds that really mean something. Those things are missing in the corporate land, and often they're missing when we're looking at setting up our own businesses, because we think, oh, I've got to chase the money. I've got to do it like everyone else. And so I say to women, the more you can tap into your feminine leadership qualities, the stronger you become, because then you start to own your own unique perspective. And that's your point of difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said, you don't empower women. Everything that they have to be empowered is within them. And that's something that I work on too. Like, for so many of us, we go looking externally for answers, but actually everything that we need is within us. We just need help and guidance to be able to draw that out and to be confident and make the right choices. And I think, something that you said there also is that we are so driven by what society tells us to do or what we feel is right for society, rather than, putting ourselves first, or, allowing us to dream and putting that dream first rather than putting everything else first. And I think, that's a key to success. So thank you for sharing that. That was just perfectly aligned with my audience and where they're at. So obviously, when you work through, doing the inner work, and you are empowered, you're taking the action, you're stepping more into that, that feminine side, and you're really, living life on your terms, and you're putting your dreams and you're putting you first. You start to, when you're taking the action and you're getting momentum, and you start to see the dollars coming in, which is awesome. But we then start to step back into that masculine side where we start to overwork, and we're working late and we're working early and we're working on weekends. And yes, we're still working, on our terms, but we start to blur those boundaries, and we start to say possibly yes to things that we shouldn't, because we're driven by the financial side of it. And one of the things that I saw in your content was you were talking about, having that healthy bank balance, which is, obviously we want to make an impact. And, as you mentioned before, for the feminine side, we're here to give and we're here to make that impact. We want to do that. But we're also here to make money, as you said. But we get to a point where when we start to blur those boundaries and we start to step in some of that masculine side, is that we've got the money there, but we're sucking our soul, we're draining our energy. So what tips have you got around, keeping that healthy bank balance, but not sucking the life and soul out of ourselves?
Yeah, the soul bankruptcy is a big piece that I come across a lot with, especially with women business owners who've had a level of success, and they're basically doing more work than they would have done in a corporate job and earning possibly the same, sometimes often not as much as they would in the corporate world. And they're really exhausted. And like you said, they're leaning into that masculine of, I've just got to get it done. And this is a big mindset that we, again, unconsciously fall into when we're running our own businesses, of this whole cultural mindset of, I'm only as good as what I've ticked off my to-do list today. And if I haven't done all of my to-dos, then I'm not a worthy person. I'm a failure. So number one, I want to say is, you are not a human robot. You're not a to-do list. You are way more than your to-do list. There is way more to life than your to-do list.
That's why I don't have a to-do list.
Yes. And here's the thing. If you forget to do something, if it's important, it will come back to you. Someone will remind you, or you'll remember it. So you don't have to worry about that. And then the other tips I would share is, it's really important to get out into nature, because that helps us connect to our feminine qualities. It helps us calm down. It helps us come out of that sympathetic nervous system that we get into when we're working really hard and really fast, which is not conducive to filling our batteries back up. So I would say anything that fills your battery back up, that recharges your battery, walking in nature, a meditation, doing some mantra, if you know what mantra is, or that's just chanting, cooking, being in gardening, anything that balances that. Now, these are not skills to be sniffed at. These are things that are really important, that charge our batteries. And I talk to my clients about your energy battery sheet. So I give them a sheet and I say, let's play bingo, and write down this week everything that drains your energy that you're doing and engaging in, and everything that charges your energy. And often, always, the list of what drains energies is really long, and the list of what they're engaging in the week that recharges them is maybe one thing, often nothing. And then I'll say, well, no wonder you're exhausted. And Olympians don't do this. Racing car drivers don't do this. Any professional does not run themselves down. And that's another big way that women self-sabotage. We just run ourselves into the ground, and then we don't give the best of ourselves. We give fumes. It's what I call fume. We give emptiness. We're living on fumes. That's what we're giving.
Yeah.
And especially in business, energy is everything. And what I mean by that is, people buy your relationship to the thing you're offering. So if you're exhausted, tired, angry, grumpy, frustrated, that energy goes into your services and your products, and people feel it. They feel it. So if you want to have a better way of working, one that's just more miraculous, enjoy what you do, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, fill up your battery, love what you do, have purpose and meaning in it, and you will be like a magnet. I'm not kidding you. You become so magnetic. People just jump on your on your stuff, what you're offering. They'll come from nowhere because they feel your vibe goes out. There's no barrier to your energy.
Yeah,
So
totally
that's
agree.
most powerful thing you can do.
Absolutely. My passion is all around energy, and actually I just did a podcast this morning that's gone out, and it was around getting stuck in a rut. And it's just, if your energy levels are low, then you don't take any action, and then everything just sort of snowballs. For me, energy is everything. It is so important in everything you do. And what you said there about recharging your batteries, and you can't help anyone or service anyone if your batteries are depleted. It's like when you go on a plane and they say, in the case of emergency, when that oxygen mask drops down, fit yours and then help other people. And it's like that. We are so ingrained in helping everyone else and then putting ourselves last. We need to flip that around, and we need to put ourselves first. So
yes, and it's easy to say that, Sharon, and it's easy for us to pay lip service to that, but I just want to make one point here because it's really important. That's the inner saboteur that comes out. That's the programmed or ingrained piece of us that we're not aware of. And it's the people pleaser. So I'm just outing it today. If you're listening to this and you've got that going on, know that you've got an inner saboteur called the people pleaser. And unless you deal with that inner saboteur and you face it and you out it and you tell it to go and take a walk, it will every time hijack your will. So it's really important that we understand the method of overcoming that. Is we've got to relate to that people pleaser. We've got to speak to it and stop identifying ourselves as it.
Yeah, for sure. Great advice there. Obviously, we've spoken a lot around, with the empowerment side of it, and the energy side of it, that it's a lot of it is the internal work. And I noticed when I was going through some of your content, you also said that, life and business is an inside job. And I always talk a lot around, everything you need is within, and you've got to do all that internal work before you can do anything else. So can you elaborate a bit more by, what's your definition of, doing life and business as an inside job? Because I sort of hadn't heard that terminology before.
Well, I think that's coming from my Yorkshire roots, the inside job. But what I mean by that is it's important that we understand, as a human being, there are a number of aspects to us. We're not just this one amorphous blob. We have to understand the business of self. So often business owners, leaders, they'll look at doing CPD, continuing professional development, which is external skills, but we forget about growing the self. And it's the self that drives the business. So there are a number of aspects to the self. There are four main aspects to us, the self: our mental self, our emotional self, our physical self, and our soul or spiritual self or energetic self. Use whatever label you want. I agree with you. I'm not talking religiously here. I'm talking about energy. And so these four aspects of self make us multidimensional. And unless we have fitness in all of those areas, just like we need fitness with our social connections and our ability to relate to others and our financial fitness, we need emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual fitness. And if we're not tending to these aspects of self, then we're not running at our highest capacity. And often we're running at our lowest capacity. So I talk about how you can gain fitness in these four aspects of self by using introspection, observing yourself, observing what you're thinking, observing how you're feeling, observing your physical body, observing your energy. And that way we can start to bring ourselves better support, do things slightly different, little by little, changing old habits that are not conducive to our health and fitness in those aspects.
Yeah, and I think that's that's the key point, because we don't focus enough on self, and especially in the 4 areas that you just mentioned, because we, traditionally we focus on marketing and strategy and all the financial plans and all that sort of stuff, and the clients and all and the products and all that, but we don't focus enough on ourselves. So thank you so much for sharing that. So just to close out today's episode, if there was one action that our listeners out there could take to get, to move themselves forward in any of the areas that were spoken about today. So whether it's something with their self and their fitness in their self, whether it's talking about helping them to empower themselves, whether it's talking about, feeding their soul. If there's one tip across any of the work that you do, and I know you do a lot of different work, so that's a hard question, but if there's one action that the listeners out there could take to actually start that movement to make the change, whether it be mindset, what's your advice? What's the one thing you would tell someone?
I would say make a conscious choice today to do something for yourself, to put yourself first for a change. And that doesn't mean do more work. It means stop and think about what's going to bring you a little bit of joy, what will spark some joy, some passion, some excitement, even just make you feel good. That's what I would say. Make a conscious choice today and take an action on that. And ultimately, the best advice I would say is get a mentor, get someone, a professional who's going to help you, because we can't see our blind spots. They're blind spots for a reason. So unless you're getting some professional help by someone other than your friends, because this isn't phone a friend, then you'll get there eventually, but getting a mentor will fast track it for you. You'll have rapid transformation, a rapid level of success and potential. And it's the cost of that is it costs more to not get help. And that's what I've realized in my business. I've got mentors, I've got people who assist me in my team, and I invest in that. And it's really important that as women we start to honor that for ourselves, because it's something we're not typically used to doing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. We're as you said, with development, we always invest in courses and programs and that, but it's about investing in ourselves. And I'm an advocate for that too, because I've always had a business coach, and people are like, well, you're a business coach. Why would you need a business coach? Because you do, because I need someone to help me move through, periods where I'm struggling. I need someone to keep me motivated. I need, someone to give me different tools that I don't have, or to help me to shift my mindset. And I think that, whether it's a mentor or a coach, and you might find that you need, a mentor and a coach, because obviously they do different work, but you definitely need to invest in yourself. And as you said, we think that we can't afford the investment, but what's going to cost you more? Staying exactly where you are, or 10 times in your results, or instead of just taking 3 years to do something, you might take 12 months to do it. That's the beauty about investing in a mentor or a coach, is that you can fast track, your journey and also your results. So definitely believe in, in investing in yourself. So I would like to thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, and I will drop your links in the show notes. But what's the best way for people to get in contact with you if they want to reach out and work through any of the topics that we've talked about today?
You can jump on my website. It's my name, so it's www.anjaniamriit.com. I've got lots of free resources on there, programs that are coming up. You can grab my book on there, Corporate Dropouts, international best-selling, Amazon #1 in 35 categories. So super excited about that. Yes.
That's amazing.
And my YouTube channel. So lots of free stuff, lots of good content to get stuck into. So that's the best bet.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And we will drop all of those links into the show notes so you can check it out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.